One of the best parts of attending CODA and the ACA National Conference is meeting super smart day camp pros from all over the country. And I'm so happy that we can share the genius of Dave Boyle and Meagan Springer from Camp Cristina of the Tampa YMCA. These two are awesome and geysers of knowledge, which they are eager to share with us, especially in the realm of staff recognition and appreciation. So get your notepads out and get comfy, because this is the Day Camp Pod. Welcome back to the Day Camp Podcast. This is Andy Pritikin, Director of Liberty Lake in the Philly suburbs of New Jersey.
I'm Sam Thompson from Crystal Lake Park District, Crystal Lake, Illinois.
And we are joined today by Meagan Springer and Dave Boyle from the Tampa YMCA. We call it Camp Cristina for the sake of this podcast. Is that what we call it?
Yeah.
That what the kids have the Camp Cristina shirts, right? So that's what we got to call it. That's awesome. So I met Dave the same way that I met Sam, which was at a Michael Brandwine 7 a.m. crack of dawn at ACA hungover session, day camp session. And this guy sits at my table and just like Sam did, just starts spouting these awesome things. And I was just like, all right, this is the guy we got to get on the podcast. We got to get to learn a little bit better. But first I'm going to start with his trusty sidekick. Meagan, tell us about yourself. How did you get to Camp Cristina?
More than anything, I love to be Dave's sidekick. That is just my goal in life, and I've achieved it. So I'm where I need to be. But I'm currently the associate executive director there. I just started in that role, but
much better title.
Yeah. No, both work. It honestly is the same. But I started at Camp Cristina. Actually, I'm from Pennsylvania, and I started there when I was 18 as a summer camp counselor. And I initially thought I was going to be, a lawyer, like going to law school, but I really fell in love with what summer camp provides for children. And so you couldn't have told me anything different after that. It just became my passion. And then when I was working on my master's, I was invited to be a program director there. So that has just been my passion at Camp Cristina, is just developing our summer camp program and now expanding our current operations.
It's pretty awesome. And now, by the way, I can understand. Before we started recording, Meagan was mentioning that she and Dave fight like brothers and sisters all the time, which is very similar to my relationship with my director, Brandy. And the thing that you guys have in common, Meagan, is that she too wanted to be a lawyer. So I think that's the commonality of wanting to win your arguments,
Well, it's not that, Andy. It's just that I'm right.
There you go. And that is exactly what Brandy would say too. Hopefully you get to meet her one day.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, Dave. So you have a much longer bio. You're an older fella than she is, and started from abroad. So tell us your story.
Yep. So like so many people from the UK, I came over in 1997 with BUNAC on a J1 visa. And this is back in the days of like paper application. So I had no idea what I was getting into. There's no real summer camping in the UK. I think I was coming over for like a sunny vacation.
Did you get a face-to-face interview at like one of those ridiculous camp fairs? Did somebody call you like at your house?
Back then you had an interview with, you went to a person who was unconnected to your camp and you just did like a generic placement interview. So I interviewed then and I was placed at a camp just outside of Doylestown in Jamison. At Camp Newman, which was run by the Archdiocese of Philadelphia. And I didn't realize I was being placed with like camping royalty in the region almost with my camp director, Steve Taylor. So I did my first year in 97. It was fantastic. I came back in 1998. It did not go so well. And I struggled, and then I turned it around at the end of the year. And then I took a couple of years off. I went down to Australia to play some sports. And then in 2000, I came back to my camp for a little bit, and Steve asked me to come back as an administrator. So I ran his summer program for 2 years. And then in 2003, I realized there was a break in the pipeline from kids to staff. So I actually stepped down and became the CIT director for a year to try and like revitalize our CIT program. And then unfortunately, the camp closed the following year. In 2004, I came over permanently. I worked with a company called Vision Quest, where they were a for-profit mission-based company that worked with adjudicated youth. So I was a wilderness instructor, and I did that for 10 years and ended up as a camp administrator. So I was running large drug and alcohol rehabilitation facilities. And then in 2013, I came back to my first passion, which is camping, with the Y in DC at a large overnight camp. Had a great success there. And in 2019, I moved down to Tampa, and where I've been since then, running Cristina with Meagan.
That's great. So the thing that interested me first when I first met you was how you changed the culture, which is not an easy thing to do. And because you're sort of a turnaround artist, you've been involved in these situations a few times. You have a little bit of a playbook. Can you fill us in a little bit of like some of these things?
Yeah, so it actually, I was having a really bad day I talk about this all the time. I was on a flight from Philadelphia to Arizona back into Tucson. And there was this guy sitting beside me who was desperate to talk to me, like absolutely desperate. And I was in a bad mood. So I had like earphones in. I was reading a book. I had a hood up. I didn't want to speak to him. And eventually he convinced me to talk. And he starts talking of all things about Steinway pianos. And he starts going on about how when you buy a Steinway concert G piano, which started like 150,000 and go to like the millions, they throw this party for you. So they come to your house, they cater it, they bring in a concert pianist to play the piano, they bring in valet parking, they rehome your pets, they take care of your neighbors. And this guy was talking about this party because every time they host one of these events, they sell, and the number is always stuck in my head, 2.4 more pianos. It's the only advertising they do. And his notion was, can you imagine having an event so great that your business doubles every time you have this event? But what I saw it was not as this like incredible party, but what Steinway was doing is they were customizing the experience for each of the stakeholders. So it wasn't just the person who bought the piano was having a great time. The guests were having a great time. And the pet was taken away and having a great time. The valet parking people were having a great time. The neighbors were taken care of. So when I went back to my program, I realized that my program user, the kid, wasn't the customer. And we were so focused on the kid's experience, we weren't taking care of the person paying for the kid to be there, the customer. So we started to take the customer's experience and optimize that. And then I realized, because we're adjudicated facility, it wasn't just the customer, the person paying, which is the probation department, it was also the judges and our vendors and the parents of the kids. So when we started to optimize each of those small experiences, the whole experience increased. When I came, so I did that at 2 camps and we completely turned them around. We had profitability, we were generating margin, we had waiting lists. So when I came back to overnight camping, I realized the same thing, that everybody was focused on the kids' experience and no one was focused on the parents. No one was focused on our board. No one was focused on the other YMCAs that interacted with us or our retreat guests. So when we started to optimize each of those individual experiences, everything improved. And I think the thing that people forget is once you become an administrator, your job is no longer to focus on the kids, is to focus on everything else. My staff take really great care of the kids. The kids will have fun. My job is taking care of the staff. Actually, that's Megan's job now, and I take care of the parents. And when those two experiences are optimized, everything flourishes. And that's kind of been my playbook ever since then. I talk
the
about it like
playbook. It's empathy, right? It's empathizing with each of your stakeholders and looking from their perspective of your business, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's making sure that, we talk about this at drop off and pickup, that, the parents who are picking up their kids, their only experience of our camp is at drop off and pickup. So we have to optimize what drop off and pickup looks like. We talk about our golden hour, this 30 minutes in the morning and 30 minutes in the afternoon, where about half of our kids arrive and leave, and it always looks chaotic. So we've optimized that experience to make it look calm, make it look controlled. We have older looking staff who are signing people in and out. We overstaff that period of time. We make sure that every kid is engaged from the moment they arrive to the moment they leave, because when that kid gets in the car and their parents are like, how is camp? And they're like, oh, and they get on their phones, that's the parents' experience of camp. So we make sure that we communicate with parents. We're sending them photographs. We prime them by saying, all the young kids are doing archery today. Here is photographs of archery. The kids at the end of the day were like, hey, how did you like archery? So when they get in the car with their kids, it's not how was camp today. It was, hey, I saw you doing archery. How is archery? And the kid gets passionate and talks about archery. So it's about optimizing the experience of each person and just understanding as well that the parents were sometimes the only person they've interacted with all day. They battled through bad traffic. When they're in a bad mood, they're not in a bad mood with us. They're in a bad mood with traffic. we're just the first person they spoke to, and just to empathize with them. That, as you say, it's understanding that they're people too, and they have their own struggles.
So what were a couple of like the sort of first fixes you did when you got to Tampa?
I don't know. You probably have to ask Meagan.
Oh, Meagan was there.
Yeah, she had been running a really great program that had struggled financially, and it was just the actual program itself was running great. We just sort of started, as I said, started optimizing what was already going on.
Yeah, I've been at Camp Cristina since 2013, so
Wow.
pre-Dave, PD. But yeah, so when I met Dave, he asked a lot about the programs, and you know, it's really easy to kind of feel like you're a dumpster fire when all of your scores and your margins say so, but you're trying your best. So what Dave had
Right. But
explained
the kids
even
are having a good time, right? That's the
oh,
thing with a lot of
right, but
these camps,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
right, but what Dave was explaining even before he was employed was that nobody knew that. Like we weren't he kept asking questions specifically on how we're portraying that. So immediately from the jump, before Dave was even employed by the Tampa Y, he was asking the right questions of like, well, how do we know? Like, how do we inform people? And I'm like, wow, I don't think we've ever done that. So the first thing that we actually did was the photo sharing system, Dave, right? That was the first thing you did. Okay, so I don't know if Dave's talked to you about that, his photo sharing passion, but it is probably one of, if not the top most important thing that we do with our summer camp program, because we have a Flickr account. If anybody wants to look at it, it's YMCA Camp Cristina Flickr, no H. And we have about almost 200,000 photos, I think, on that account right now. But it's what we do is we take about 500 plus photos a day and we share them with families. But the one thing that Dave incorporated with that was that we had to send a midday email update. And initially, Dave is the one that led the charge on that. But what the transformation that we saw was that people felt more secure with their children being at camp. They were excited for what their children were going to be doing, and they had something to look forward to. So we took the child experience and transitioned it into a parent experience as well. So that was the first thing I think that you tackled, Dave, if not anything facility wise.
Yeah. Well, I think, the photo thing is something, a lot of camps do. And I would argue 500 is a lot to put up, but the midday update thing, that's unique. That's something you don't ever hear a camp say. And I think that, if you're a small camp, right, where you can give an update and it's sort of applicable to everybody, because at a giant camp where these guys are doing this and these guys are doing this and these guys, it's not so easy. I think that for a smaller, medium-sized camp, it's a great idea, because just for the sake of what Dave said earlier, when they pick up the kids, so that they can have something to talk about, right? I think it's super brilliant.
Yeah, so what we do is we send out a daily email. It's very, very short, and it kind of follows theme. So Monday, we talk about the pickup process, that we're going to ID you. And basically, it's a weather report that says no one got hurt today. That's what the email is. And at the bottom, it has the link to the photographs. And so it's a way that we tell people our story and tell about our values. So we'll talk about our theme days and what we expect from people in our theme days. We talk about why we give out awards. We talk about our core values. We talk about what we believe, which is everybody should feel a part of something bigger than themselves. And I think camps have these great mission statements, but they don't communicate those mission statements well. So we break it down into 5 easily digestible emails, and we send it out each day. And then the other thing that these emails do is they give parents a feedback loop. At the bottom of the emails, we solicit feedback from them. We say, if there's anything you're concerned about, anything you see, if you want to pass on any messages to our staff, but we give parents a voice to allow them to be heard. And I think that is fundamental. But I think the most basic human need is to know that someone's listening, that you're important to them and that you matter. And we give parents a sense of this mattering. And we'll talk about what we do to make our staff feel that they matter later on, I think. But we give parents this ability to communicate with us. So when they bring up a complaint, we can respond right away. We're not responding on the Tuesday after their kid has left. We're responding to it when it's happening. And just having that ability to email people and them to email the camp director or the associate director back is just fantastic for parents. They feel engaged. They feel part of it. And most of our emails are just thank yous or you're doing a great job. It's very rare that someone's like, you suck.
Yeah, no, you're giving them the opportunity. That's the thing, right? You're giving them a red carpet, which is awesome. All right. Well, we're going to talk a little bit about the staff stakeholders in a moment, but first we have to give a shout out to our friends at AM Skyer Insurance, the leading insurance and strategic partner for many of the finest camps in America. AM Skyer partners with camps to provide public relations, legal, medical, behavioral support, and more. Experience the AM Skyer difference at amskyer.com. Yeah, these guys, they got a stable of professionals with them, dermatologists, ophthalmologists, right? Available by telemedicine. They got public health people. They have an employment attorney, legal, PR, and the mental health stuff and child abuse stuff. It's really nice to have these people in your back pocket and have them be just partners with you during the summer when the inevitable stuff happens with children and staff. So huge shout out to our friends at AM Skyer for over 100 years. Okay, we're in year 102 now. amskyer.com. Check it out. They'll be at the next conference that you are at, guaranteed. All right, so this year, but just a couple of weeks ago in New Orleans, I was running a roundtable for day camp operators, and we were talking about the staff experience, how to make the staff experience better. Which a lot of it is, praise and appreciation and such like that. Make them feel like they're winning, as Justin Pritikin likes to say. And Dave raised his hand and spoke for about 15 minutes and had everybody's jaw open, which then he attributed to Meagan, by the way. All right. So you guys can handle this any way you want, but we want you guys to explain what you guys are doing with your staff, with your random acts of ice cream and your awards and all that kind of stuff, because it is really, really super cool.
So I'll explain the why we do these things, and then Meagan will explain the mechanics of what we do.
Excellent.
So
I love Dave. I love that everything you guys do, even what you were saying before my AM Skyer commercial, that you tie stuff to your values all the time. It's super important because you're 100% right, dude. People talk the talk, but they rarely walk the walk. So it's just so great to be intentional whenever possible. So shout out to that.
We have this purpose statement. So we have our mission, which is the generic Y mission, and then we have this other very short thing about how we want every kid to be inspired and awaken their dreams and feel like they belong. But then we have this purpose statement, which is kind of based on the Johnson & Johnson creed. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, that they have this statement that when things went wrong in 1982, when they had the problem with Tylenol, they went to their creed. They said their customers came first, and they pulled all the Tylenol off all the shelves around the country. And so we wrote this set of principles. And our first thing is we will take care of our kids, but then the bulk of our purpose statement is about our staff, that we take care of our staff, that we'll honor and respect them, we'll meet them where they are, and we will make them the best versions of themselves so that they can take care of the kids and make the kids the best versions of themselves. So everything we do is very staff-centric. And I think a lot of people are talking about there's a legitimate mental health crisis, like anxiety and depression amongst young adults is skyrocketing. And there's, increased evidence. This is probably from Instagram, but that's for a different time. So what we do is we did some research, and a lot of this we sort of stumbled into backwards. But we learned that the one thing that people with good mental health outcomes have that people with poorer mental health outcomes don't have is they have an increased sense of mattering. And you'll hear this word mattering in all the research. And the idea of mattering is you're important enough that when something happens to you, someone will reach out. Or you're someone else's call in an emergency, that you're part of a community where you're connected and people need you and you feel needed. So everything that we have done with our staff is to increase this sense of community and worth as a human, as a person. We don't recognize people because they are the best at lifeguarding. We recognize people on their patience, on their integrity, on their basic character values. And one of the things, again, that comes up in the research is a lot of young adults feel they're more loved when they get better results. They're more loved when they do well at school or university, even by their own parents. And what they achieve and what they project to the world is actually more important than who they are at their core. And we don't believe that. We believe that who you are at your core is the most important thing you give to the world. So we've built these programs. We have a staff of the day, we have a staff of the week, we have staff of the year, and then we have our very famous random acts of ice cream as these sort of 4 prongs of how we make staff feel they matter, how we make them feel important to us and each other. And when you feel important to somebody, it reciprocates the other direction. So we all feel connected. So that's why we do it. I'll let Meagan explain how we do it.
Dave, do you also want to discuss the Camp Kindness Award?
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That's,
Yeah.
I heard about that. That's killer.
Yeah. So after Dave talked about the 4 he said prongs, we have branched out a couple other awards because we just tend to be award city now at Camp Cristina. And initially you think about it and you're like, oh, like participation award, but that's really, honestly, that's kind of the generation we're working with, but it really isn't a participation award. We've identified it to be specific praise. And it took, I don't know, Dave, how many years do you think it took us to get like really, is that 2 or 3?
It was 3.
3 years to get really good at it. So and Dave, interject at any point. I swear I will not give you a hard time after the podcast, but
yeah, the individual customized praise is what's really super impressive about what you guys do.
So the first one that I think is one of the most transformational ones is the Staff of the Day Award. Now, when we started initiating this, it was very tough. The premise of the Staff of the Day Award is that it is peer nominated, and it is really anonymous, but it doesn't have to be. And it identifies the staff. There's usually 2 based on the camp size. We have about 450 at best on a week. So we choose 2. So it's a peer nominated award. It specifically identifies staff that other staff see working hard. And so when we say that, we have to go through an entire training on these awards with our staff to identify what that means, because we're living in a different world with them. And that is something that this is a good lesson for them as well. So we're teaching them, what does working hard look like? It's not, I feel bad for Dave because his group was really tough today. It was, I think Dave was working hard because he was very resilient. He found different things to do. He was very creative. We're specifically identifying why this person deserves this award. And so when they nominate them, they have to list the reasons. So it took us 3 years to get an influx. Now we can't get, like, we can't keep them away. Like, we get so many nominations. Initially we were begging for them. But what happened was we go on stage, and the key is that we go in front of the entire camp and we announce that they're the hardest working staff. They get a hard hat, they get a button, and then they get recognition, and then they get a social media post. And the social media post is going, when we talk about all this, all of our staff get social media posts pretty much for everything. And that is a part of them mattering, like Dave is saying. So that is the Staff of the Day Award. They get a parking spot as well. It's just a really good feeling. They get to carry that hat around. Initially, when Dave and I talked about it, I thought the hat was kind of silly, but they really love the hat. So the next one is go ahead.
Well, I got questions because I've been thinking about it. I got questions. So the first thing is, you're doing this at the end of the day, right?
Morning. No, it's the morning. So we pick the staff from the day before.
It's the staff of the day from the prior day.
Yeah.
And then they wear the hard hat all day. Like, that's
in Florida in the sun. Yes.
Yeah, they won't. They absolutely do.
And then they give back the hard hat to get used for someone else the next day.
Yeah, we sanitize it. I promise.
My other logistical question is, they're self-nominated, right? I mean, excuse me, they're nominated by their peers, right?
It's peer nominated award, correct?
Not from the directors, not from their supervisors, not from their peers, right? And for a lot of you, if not all your awards are like that, right? How the heck do you do that? Like, how do you mechanically do that?
So when we started, that was not the case. People didn't really understand what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
So this is actually why it's really good to start. So myself and Meagan had to go out and find people to nominate, because we wanted to give out at least one every day, ideally 2. And when you go out to your camp only looking for people doing good stuff, it changes your perspective of camp. That you only see amazing things by amazing people in incredibly adverse circumstances. We are in Florida. It is either 90 degrees and humid or thundering. And we would go out and we would see this stuff. And then when we'd stand up on stage, we'd call them out, we'd give them the hat, we'd give them a chance to make a little speech. They would talk, and they always thank their peers. They always I couldn't do it without these 5 people. So they come to us every day. Meagan keeps a list. The one thing that myself and Meagan always have is we have veto. and we'll discuss it with other people. We'll be like, hey, Andy was nominated, and someone was like, oh no, he only does that when so and so is around.
So hold on. So your people are bringing you, like, this random counselor is bringing you, Meagan, like this piece of paper that has their friend's name on it and a little thing that says, like
No,
how do
sorry, Dave's
ballots
like kind of
happen?
right. I'm sorry, Dave's right, and he's also like kind of right because I think Dave also forgets that we get like, I don't know, 20 other nominations at 10 o'clock at night. So I actually do it through our text
Also, the
alert
emails.
system. No, so I do it. I have a text alert system for the day camp staff because I'm not a fan of like group me, whatever. That's another conversation, but I do text alerts. So that way I can mute that and then see it in the morning. But if it's not per the conversations that Dave is referring to, which he is correct on that, but we get a lot more nominations in the evenings because they're just up at all hours most of the time. So I use Remind 101.
All right. Well, you could make a Google form too. I mean, theoretically, right?
Yeah, I do track it. Yeah, you could really do it however you want. Like you could submit it in whatever way.
I was
but
just curious. I'm just like the kind of guy that I love a good idea, but I like the execution of it even more sometimes, you know? All right.
I think
So anyway, I cut you off. Staff of the day. That was
not a popularity contest. So if Dave and Meagan come up and I'm like, oh, we should nominate Meagan, and then Meagan comes up and like, we should nominate Dave. Meagan sees through that. Like, you don't just get to like co-nominate your friend and try and push it through. Like, and we're vigilant. We keep an eye out. We're watching people, so we have to agree as well.
Okay. Any rules about people winning multiple times?
We try and not have you win on consecutive days, but people win it multiple times.
Yeah, we do track that,
and some people never win it.
We track all of the awards. That's on its own spreadsheet. So we'll track what dates you got the awards, the ones that the rest of them we'll talk about, and you know, just keep tabs on that. Just because not everybody gets.
And one thing that was mentioned, but it was sort of like quickly mentioned that, but Dave spoke a lot about it, and I have a lot of friends that speak highly about it, is buttons, and having a button machine, and the versatility and the usefulness of that you guys maximize your button machine and make custom buttons also, which is super cool. And that's another thing, like Meagan, you were saying before, like, oh, it sounded like hokey and blah, 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 but no, but people love the friggin' buttons. There's just no way around it.
People do love their buttons, right, Dave?
I thought the button machine was the stupidest idea I've ever heard. I'm now a button machine evangelist.
We were in the car.
He's on his 12th button machine.
He is. We were in the car in 2019 on our way to a meeting at the Tampa Metro main office. And I said, Dave, I really think we should get a button maker, because I was on the Camp Professionals Facebook page. And he's like, yeah, I don't like, why would we need it? And then he literally is like the button master now. So for the show notes, Dave or Meagan, we need a link to like Amazon or something to like what you guys feel is the quintessential button machine for people out there.
I have it on.
That's all Dave.
I have it on the Camp Mechanics. I'll send you the link.
We should even have Dave like do a tutorial on how to make a button, like a YouTube video for you guys.
That would be wonderful. All right, so we did staff of the day. We're just at the tip of the freaking iceberg. So keep going.
Staff of the week is staff of the week is the next one. That one we really try to make special, so that just distinguish it between staff of the day. They're equally important, but because staff of the week, we want it to look like a big achievement, because it is. So the way that we really do that is Dave and I are constantly outside having conversations with people, but it is in its core kind of, Dave, you can agree or disagree. I kind of still think it's peer nominated, because we are still asking and soliciting feedback from staff on how people are doing. At the end of the day, Dave and I do make the decision, but it's really based on others' feedback and what they see. So the Staff of the Week award, it goes to 2 camp counselors, 1 lifeguard. Am I missing anybody else, Dave? Just 2 camp counselors, 1 lifeguard? Yeah. Okay. So that is awarded in the morning on Fridays at our big assembly that we do on Fridays with all of our awards that campers get as well. But we do these first. And when we talk about them, we talk about their character values. We talk about the traits they exhibit, what make them a good camp counselor, why they're staff of the week in specific detail, because we don't just want to bring them on stage and say, you're staff of the week. Like, people need to know the reason why. And that's through the feedback that we solicit from other staff, as well as what we see and who is really deserving. They get a t-shirt that is the same as their uniform, but it just says Counselor of the Week on the back or Lifeguard of the Week, so that they can stay in uniform but still have an extra shirt. They love that. They get a Camp Cristina custom bracelet. They get a button. They get a social media post, which they love, that they share, which increases your engagement. Always the best. And that's how Staff of the Week really works. Dave, do you have more to add on that?
No, again, the way that Meagan presents it, there's a bit of like, there's photos on our Flickr page of just how excited the staff not receiving it are. We've really, and I say we, and I mean Meagan. Meagan has built this culture of like where the staff compete, but it's not like envious competition. It's not like I want to bring this person down. It's like we're all in this together, and I'm excited for you because I'm competing with you to make myself better. And then we get them to give a speech, and they give fairly emotional speeches about just how grateful they are. And one of the things that Meagan has done is she's really good at employing siblings. And it's always interesting when a sibling forgets to thank their sibling. But it's we know this is important because we give out one. You can only win it once.
That's so funny.
We only win it once, and those staff are washing their shirts every night. Because once you have the Staff of the Week shirt, it's this very humble brag. Normally, our shirts say "Counselor" on the back, and just it says in small letters above it "of the week" or below it "of the week." And those shirts are always impeccable, and they wear them every day.
Well, if you won it last year, you theoretically could wear it next year too,
It'll be a
right?
different color, a different style.
Ah.
The shirt changes
Yeah.
slightly year to year. But yes, we do allow them to wear them, their old ones. But yes, and the lifeguard of the week is it looks like a regular lifeguard shirt that says lifeguard inside the red cross, and it just says of the week.
Mhm.
And those
And a
shirts
guard
are
tube.
laundered every day.
And a Guard of the Week guard tube. But it's really in the way you present it. And I think the motivation for me was because for years, I don't know if Dave had talked about staff retention. We went
Oh
from
yeah. Why don't you talk
like
about that for a second, because that's
so
what Dave opened with at the CODA conference. That
yeah,
like
I think our
made
staff
everybody
retention
listen
was
to him.
it was sitting at maybe a 15% or less. And I was a very passionate camp counselor, and I was very frustrated. I couldn't understand why people didn't like, or just in camp in general. I just couldn't understand why people couldn't catch on. And I think that one of the things I realized after 10 years in, even less, is that, not everybody's going to be that person. You get one or two of those, or maybe a handful in your staff team every year that's very passionate and just kind of clicks with it. But other people are really starting from zero. So it's just really how you're building the experience. And so once we started doing that, we went from year over year to around 90% retention rate, if not a little bit higher in a couple of years of those. But that's really kind of the main driver there.
That's awesome. We did a shirt that you had to earn, and the most popular year was "My boss thinks I'm kind of a big deal." When they earned that shirt, they wore those a lot, and they were pink, but nobody, the guys didn't care. So every year we try to think of some new saying to put on the back that they can earn, and that's getting harder and harder. So I may have to switch it up and do more what you guys are doing. Every
Well,
system seems to lose momentum
yeah.
after a while if you don't keep it fresh.
Yeah.
Ours,
Well, these guys are just so committed to it. That's like the admirable thing. It's just that, in the day camp world, you always hear, well, we're too busy. We can't have meetings. We can't do this. We can't do that. There's not enough time, blah, blah, blah. And I always say, if it's that important, then you make time for it. It becomes part of the bandwidth that becomes important for you.
I couldn't agree more. I really believe, and I say this a lot, that your culture is what you celebrate. And we celebrate our staff every single day. So myself and Meagan make this a priority. And Meagan is much more than myself. I sometimes get distracted, but one or both of us are always on the stage. There was one day last year or 2 years ago where we didn't give it out, and we had another senior staff give it out. And there was rebellion. It has to come from us. You have to do it every day. Even when it's raining, you cannot miss it. It always has to be done. And when you're doing something over and over again, and you're celebrating your staff over and over again, your culture becomes your staff.
Well put. All right. So camp of the day, staff of the week. Then what's next on the menu?
Our kindness ambassador. So this is
Oh,
our
yeah.
Kindness
newest award.
ambassador.
We had a colleague who died suddenly 2 years ago now, and when people were talking about him, all that people could talk about was just how incredibly kind he was. He was one of the kindest people I've ever met, and always had time for people. So we started an award called the Kindness Ambassador. It is again a staff T-shirt that says Kindness Ambassador on the back. He was into tie-dye, so it's white, so the staff can tie-dye it. And we give it to people who just show incredible kindness and show empathy to each other and to our kids and to our parents. And it went from its first couple of weeks to kind of like a marginal award to being as big, if not better, than the staff of the week. Because again, when Meagan presents it, she just talks about the values these people exhibit, about how kind they are, showing that, you know, everybody's fighting a battle and we just have to be empathetic to each other, and everybody gets behind it. And again, they get a button.
And again, nominated by their peers.
Correct.
And again, Friday afternoon.
Correct.
Friday morning, yeah.
Friday morning.
Friday morning. Okay,
Mhm.
got it.
Yeah. And then we
And
have,
then-
you know, go ahead, Meagan.
Oh no, I don't know what you're gonna say. You go. No,
I was
you
just going
go.
to say, then we have our sort of the regular camp awards everybody has, our spirit awards, our
Yeah, and Queen of
Theme.
Theme.
awards.
So these are still
Yeah.
staff? You're still talking about staff?
Yeah,
And these are weekly?
yeah.
So just go through the list, because this is not normal. This is great. This is great, but this is not typical of most
We
camps.
do, and we do actually have to take another block out of our assemblies in the morning because of how much time that it does take. But you know, we haven't had any backlash. It's gone well. But staff of the day, staff of the week, kindness ambassador, queen of theme.
Gods.
Oh, lifeguard of the week.
Queen of what?
Queen of Theme. So we have a dressing up award. Actually, this is a great one because it kind of shows like that people really do matter when we pay attention. So every Thursday, Meagan sets a theme, and it's basically to engage our staff. They dress up whatever the theme is. And a couple of years ago, we had a staff member called Kellen, who during his interview only wanted to know what the themes were. And his
yeah, that was
costumes
that was so funny.
so elaborate. So most people would like stick like a bit of paper on their chest, but he was coming in these like theatrical costumes. And he started doing this, and then a couple more staff joined in, and he had.
Well, by the way,
some
Kellen dresses up
followers.
every day. Kellen dresses up
Yeah.
every day in the Florida heat, like Monday through Friday. But anyways, Dave, go on.
But on Thursdays, it went from like 2 or 3 staff kind of doing silly, or you know, maybe 5 or 6 staff doing silly things, to we had this summer a favorite character day where we had to bring the staff up in 2 groups because almost every staff came in an elaborate costume, and we recognized this guy at the end of last year by giving him a plaque, just simply naming the Queen of Theme Award after him. It's the Kellen Johnson Queen of Theme Award, because he created a movement at our camp where the kids, the staff, even I look forward to Thursdays just to see the lengths that people have gone to dress up. It's incredible.
Yeah, he was Paul Bunyan. Was that this year? Paul Bunyan. He was Paul Bunyan, like legitimately on stilts. And he's
That's
and
awesome.
he rides. He does like our transport, so he rides from another part of Tampa. It's very impressive. The other YMCA's that he transports to know him because they're like, oh, that's the guy that dresses up.
It's a stormtrooper, right?
Yeah.
So the awards are a daily award, staff of the week, guard of the week, kindness ambassador. We have a camp spirit award, which is for the kids, but really it's for the staff, like just the unit that shows the most spirit. And then at the end of the year, we do a staff of the year, a guard of the year, and a unit of the year. But before we talk
but we
about
do
that,
year round too.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and then
Anyways.
because we're a year-round facility, we do have an additional year-round staff. But it takes a lot, and I would say that it takes me about 50 minutes on a Friday morning to get it all together. It takes us probably 20 minutes to half an hour before each assembly to get it going. And it's only if it was a non-camp time of year, it would take us 5 minutes because it's camp. 5 minutes takes 30 minutes to execute. So, you know, it's not a huge amount of our day, but the return is infinite. So it's work, like it feels like a lot of work. It feels like the daily emails, but you know, it's really not. It's a small investment for a giant return.
Yeah, no, it's superb.
I
So
love
what do the things of the year look like? Are they also, is the same idea, like the button, the shirt, that kind of thing?
It is. The only difference is they get a plaque. We get a
they actually get a
7x5 plaque made, and then we have a perpetual plaque in our office. Meagan can talk about that more. But we recognize them. We make them feel like they belong. That
Yeah, so you have like a Hall of
our
Fame
camp.
kind of thing, like in
Right.
the office?
Yeah, legitimately.
No,
And it's
great.
great because the staff try to be humble and they're like, oh, that's the pick me wall. But then when you see them with their friends, they're like, that's me up there.
Heck yeah. Heck
I
yeah.
love that you have the parking space thing, that they get a closer parking space for one of the awards.
Yeah.
Well, that's the
Because-
one of the day, right? That's interesting that you do it for the day person.
Oh, we
So
do
the
it for like we do it for more. Anyways, Dave, go on.
No, go ahead, Meagan.
They got a whole section of
Sorry.
the parking lot roped
We
off.
do a parking spot for staff of the day, that clearly, and then staff of the week and lifeguard of the week. You get a parking spot for that.
That's
So.
great, because some camps, you know, where you park to where you have to
Yeah.
work is pretty far. So it's
Yeah.
kind of fun to have a
Yeah,
convenient
no,
spot
we
for once.
we do that at my camp too. I do one for the week. Well, historically, not after this podcast, we'll see what I do. But historically, I've done one, and it's a big deal, you know, to get that parking spot, you know, for the week. All right, so we're gonna do a little talk about our friends at CRS, and then we're gonna talk about Random Acts ice cream. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, commercial recreation specialists. Oh, yeah. The go-to source for recreation solutions that will ensure that your camp thrives. Explore their website. Yeah, you know your website. Check them out at crs4rec.com. Yeah, you know, we're talking to Florida people, so let's just talk about the stuff that CRS does to keep people cool, right? They got the inflatable aqua park courses, right, for pools or lakes, all right? So if you don't have a lake, they can go right in the pools and have an awesome time. Kids, you know, you secure it with ropes and they have a blast doing that. They do splash pads. If you got a spare $100,000 or whatever, you know, you could do that kind of thing in this global warming world. Splash pads are becoming more and more important, or just any kind of misting kind of things they have. They have the Zoom Flume, which is like an inflatable slip and slide. It comes in like 30-foot sections, I think, and you could put two together. If you have a hill, even better, then you get some momentum going down. We use a bubble machine with it to get some, you know, get some speed going there. Yeah, and then of course the shade structures, which we talk about a lot in this day and age. I mean, I'm sure you guys have like shade structures all over the place, like on top of your playgrounds. Like, how do you guys do shade structures at Camp Cristina?
We don't have enough. We are getting more.
Yeah. Well, check out crs4rec.com because they are the middlemen that know what your camp needs, and CRS is serious about fun. All right, guys. It's ice cream time. It's not really ice cream time, but it's Random Acts ice cream. So please tell us about it.
Again, I'll tell you, and then Meagan can kind of go into mechanics.
No worries, because this is killer.
Meagan was having trouble getting people to respond to emails. So she would write emails during staff recruitment time, and then she would text everybody and say, hey, I just sent you an email. But we couldn't tell if they were reading them. So Meagan started to write at the bottom of an email, hey, once you've read this far, email me back and tell me who your favorite superhero is. Tell me what your favorite soft drink is. Tell me what your favorite this is, what your favorite that is. And she would email back, and we'd be able to track who was responding to the emails. But then what Meagan had actually done, wittingly or unwittingly, is develop a database of everybody who works for us as their favorite things. And then Random Acts of Ice Cream was born. Meagan.
Yeah. So because I do that, because at that point the way the Tampa YMCA hires, like it's very urgent, because basically you get hired and you get trained, and like it's just not simple. Shout out Tampa Y, we love you though. But anyways, so when we do these emails, like I need to hear from them immediately. And you know, I still Dave is probably, I don't know if Dave tells people I have raging ADHD, so I'm very hyper focused on the staff when it comes to these things. But I do have them reply. So it has become more robust, where instead of just relying on those replies to emails, they get a link. And the link now to their favorite things, it's like specific questions that I have for them, including their dietary restrictions, that confirms the reply to the email. And that's how we even pass out like our staff uniforms, because we have a Google form that I know that you filled out now, because you know you got to the end of the email, and then we'll issue out their staff shirts based on their shirt size and all the information they provided in that link. But initially, yes, it was just simple little questions. I still throw in questions. We made a staff playlist out of like the last song they just listened to, but it's all thought-provoking things. So that's where that's transformed. And then random acts of ice cream isn't just ice cream all the time. So what I do is I export this list and it gets shared with Dave and Jackie, our other program director, and anybody else that this is relevant to that is running camp. And so if your favorite drink is a Fanta, I can look it up when we identify really good things going on. So we had a staff named Anthony. He was handling a really tough day in a really positive way. And that is actually a big thing for Anthony. He's grown so much since we have employed him. And so I had to go out to the store anyways. And I was like, okay, let me look at Anthony's list. So I saw that he really likes Fanta. So I brought him a Fanta and he was genuinely shocked and surprised. And when you are outside in the conditions of Riverview, Florida, you feel it. So he said, why did you get this from me? I said, you're doing a great job. So then going beyond that, we do it in like 2 capsules. We do these things where we identify specifically the things that they like, and we will do these personal actions. Dave does them, everybody does them. And then sometimes we go out, because pretty much on the list, everybody likes ice cream. We go out to Aldi and we will buy tons of ice cream bars. We'll go on the golf cart and we will give them out to the staff. It's majority of them are doing a great job in that moment and or during the day, and they're just super grateful to have that, and it means a lot to them. Dave, do you have anything to add semantics wise on this?
Well, hold on.
No, that's a good.
Do the kids get irritated if the staff's eating an ice cream bar in front of them?
Well, we do it during the right hours.
Okay.
So our kids already get ice pops during the day. We have if anybody else wants to call their chest freezers ice babies, we have 2 ice babies that we keep
Very
ice
cute.
pops in. And so that's like constant. So our kids are never not like, they always have something. So I don't think, I mean, maybe for the younger ones, yes, but we do give the staff, we'll give them a break. We'll give them the space to go have that on their own as well. But we really kind of just feel out the climate there.
I love
And
your
I also
name
think that
for
when
that
we do explain, sorry,
because I love her name for the cooler because we have these big long coolers that we call coffin coolers. We've got to figure out a better name. I like ice babies way better.
Yes.
Well, they're sort of like ice mommies because then the ices are the ice babies. That's how I sort of see it.
no, and we explained to both the staff and the kids why they're getting the award. Some kids are like, oh, I want one of them, but most kids are like, no, they deserve it. Actually, the best investment we made, we bought 2 4.5 square foot or whatever they are chest freezers, and we filled them with ice pops in our staff room, and they can take them whenever they want them. And it costs us probably $100 or so a summer to run that, but it's like a huge deal for them that they can, when it's really, really hot and they're having a bad day, they can come inside and revenge eat ice when the kids are still outside.
So wait, what's in that thing that they can take? I don't understand. What
I don't
kind
know
of
what you
ice?
call them. They're those like thin
the ice
colored
pops.
water things in the
Oh, just
plastic.
regular ice pops. I
Dave
gotcha.
calls them ice lollies.
Oh, that's because I'm foreign.
Gotcha.
We go through a lot of ices. We have to order from Sam's Club at the beginning of the summer because they run out. So we get cases and cases and have them ready to go because every day you got to hand those out.
That's really interesting. So I love the Fanta example. Can you give us one more example of like a random act kind of thing from using the database file that you have, that how you would, surprise a staff person?
So I have tons. Some of my leverage though is always using the guy in charge. So sometimes I think, and I've done it a couple times. So another example. So gosh, dietary restrictions. We had a girl that's completely gluten-free. So that was another thing, is as far as it goes, she's now a program director in the Tampa Y. So as far as that goes, understanding their limitations, everybody had like, I think she's gluten-free and dairy-free. I think at that point, like I believe so. She has all the limitations, so all the tasty things. So when we do go get ice cream, we specially buy fruit bars, and then we'll go out and give those to her specifically. But there's always a good example. But going back to the man in charge, sometimes I send out Dave, or Dave will do it willingly on his own because he identifies things very quickly. But sometimes we'll send Dave out with the random act of kindness specifically for a specific person and to tell them that they're doing a really good job. And they're starstruck. It's the best. So I think that if anybody's going to use that strategy, is to do that as well.
I also have another one that when my colleague is having a really bad day, I buy her caramellos.
He's talking about me because I break down on Thursdays, but thanks, Dave.
Megan's
On
favorite
your
candy bar
dress-up
is a
days?
caramello. So it's, it's good to know.
It's good to notice, like you said, the random things they do. I had a assistant director at our midsummer staff breakfast. He waited till the staff went through and his favorite donut was gone. So I just took note of it. And as soon as the meeting was over, I ran out and got him a couple and brought them back to him. Those little things he was shocked.
Yeah, so one of the things I learned from hearing about what you guys do, and then Dave, I think you were there when Howie was talking about what he does with those videos, right? At Camp Robin Hood, is that you said it before, Meagan. We spent all this time focused on the kids, right? And then we forget about the staff. And we gather information and we create a database and we pass it along from year to year so that the supervisors know like the quirks about the kids, but yet we have nothing on the staff except like from our interview practically, so compiling this data, whether it's as silly as what's your favorite superhero. And by the way, I have a question on my application, the staff application is tell us a fun fact about yourself. And it's it's the best question. You could spend 15 minutes on it during the interview because they'll tell you some crazy thing that they can do, or they've done or been, do or something like that. But Howie tasks and Howie, forgive me if I'm restating this incorrectly, but he tasks his middle management to accumulate great stuff about the staff to hand in to the office before they leave on the last day of camp. Similar to what a lot of camps do with the kids. They want this intel on the kids. He wants this intel on the staff. And then what he does in October, November is he sends a 2-3 minute video, personal video that he sends through this Bonjoro app that he told us about. It's just a short video thanking them and bringing up this scenario that they did where they super excelled at camp and were rock stars. And, here's this kid now that's like at college studying for a test in November, and they get this video from the camp director and, saying how awesome they were and citing this specific moment, and it just blows their mind and makes them want to come back to camp. It goes back to accumulating information about your staff, right? And treating them, like you were saying in the upfront, Dave, like a stakeholder, just like the parents, just like the campers, even more so, right? Because they're your important thing, right? If your staff's happy, your campers are happy, plain and simple.
If you're a camp like me where you don't have much of a budget, in the show notes, there's just 50 things for staff incentives on a budget. So cheapo things that you can do or try to start. So
yeah, now Sam, the queen of the budget at the municipal programs, no doubt about it.
Yeah, no, we're still in the Bonjoro app thing, but one of the things that Meagan does that costs us nothing and takes very little time is due to her knowledge of our staff. She'll see stuff and she'll photograph it, or she'll send them a text message that says, "Hey, saw this and thought of you." And again, we're just saying to staff in October, November, January, December that they matter to us, that we were thinking about you, and here's a quick text message just checking you're okay. And the staff really respond to it, really respond.
No, it's just smart stuff, right? I mean, it's just smart. And I love the social media posts about the of all the awards. I think that's just great. They love that. And something that my son was talking about on other episodes, how that can get shared and put out and seen by their friends and all that kind of thing. And then all of a sudden you're a desirable place to work. People are calling you to work here instead of you begging people to work. It's just really smart. And the only thing that I add to that, Meagan, is that what I find is that we do so much social media posting during the summer that it's sort of like this fire hose of stuff, and it's so amazing. But I think that it overwhelms, right? Yeah, of course, the friends of that kid who's the staff of the week like are going to enjoy it in their family and all that kind of thing. But what I'm looking for now is how do we take that amazing stuff in the summer and reuse it in the off season and sort of rekindle that kind of thing? Because, to do a social media post of like, by the way, here was the week 4 staff of the week person, or here was the lifeguard of the summer kind of thing. Let's give a shout out to that person, because on that last week, there's just so much stuff happening right? That I think it's just overwhelming and it loses a little something. You know, like you have to do it then. It's super important to do it then. But I think that reusing it during the year when, you know, we're sitting here now, you know, at least in New Jersey, it's 26 degrees. It really sucks outside. You know, everybody's really looking forward to camping 125 days or whatever it is. And to throw stuff like out there really gets people excited.
Well, Meagan is the absolute queen of social media within the Tampa Y. She works with our marketing department really closely, but doing exactly what you said. She's paid attention to what gets engagement during the winter. We have posts that we keep up throughout the winter, and it's always the most engaged with posts are pictures of kids and staff together.
Yep, 100%. Well, listen, thank you guys so much for coming on and sharing all your trade secrets with us. We really, really appreciate it. You guys are awesome. You're doing great work down there. And man, you guys, your organization is just super lucky to have you. And again, I just thank you for sharing because, you know, we are in an industry that, you know, is trying to sort of just raise the sea level for everybody. And all these kind of things are all relatively common sense things. But, you know, again, people just don't think they have the bandwidth. They don't have the time, you know, I can't afford a button machine. And, you know, to that, I say bullshit, make it a priority, do it, right? Make it happen. So I want to thank the Go Camp Pro team, AM Skyer, commercial recreation specialist, for allowing us to bring this podcast to you. If you like what you hear, you should subscribe to the Day Camp Pod on your favorite podcast platform. Check out our show notes from our episode, which will include the button machine link. All right. It will include Sam's list of 50 cheapy things you can do to help recognize your staff. And also, Dave, we got to plug the Camp Mechanic. It'll have a link to the Camp Mechanic. Can you tell us what the Camp Mechanic is? I mean, it's certainly a hub of resources, but can you talk about that for a moment?
Yeah, so it's a website that we run. People are telling us we should become consultants, and we dabbled with the idea, but we kind of enjoy what we're doing. But we did have the website, and the idea is that, like an engine, camp is like really complex, but the individual components of camp aren't that complicated. And if you break each component down into its parts, it's really easy to build your program through these incremental gains. So post every Tuesday. There's some really esoteric stuff on there. But it's me in long form, kind of just describing my philosophies to camp. And there is the stuff on all the things we've discussed today to some degree.
Awesome. Thank you, Dave Boyle. Thank you, Meagan Springer. Thank you all for listening and making yourself a better Day Camp Pro. We'll be back in another couple of weeks with another episode of the Day Camp Pod.